In this video, we're going to look at web constructions. So on page 13, you have a web that looks like this. And we're going to start out that w equals 16. So the value of the variable is the fact that w is equal to 16. So we're going to reflect a little bit on the recipes from the last page and what we did with those, and look at how we would construct changing or altering the w equals 16. So if we pick a number, we're going to start going this upper right hand direction, and let's just pick a number, let's say 3. So we're going to add 3. And when we add 3, we want to figure out what's going to go in this box with this alteration. So if we think about the recipes, and if we added 3 teaspoons, we would take w plus 3, indicating that we're adding 3 teaspoons if we were talking about the recipes. And in the end, we would know that we would have 3 more than what we started with, and so we would have a total of 19 recipes. 19 teaspoons. And so we can look at this alteration of adding 3. So now our new expression, w plus 3, is worth 19, but our variable, that is 16, is still living right here because 16 plus 3 is in fact 19. So let's pick another number. Let's say, and this time we're going to multiply, and let's pick 5. And this is kind of like when we tripled the recipe, and this time we are going to 5 times it, if you will. And so I am starting out with this expression, w plus 3, and I want to alter it by multiplying it by 5, and I can go w plus 3. That's happening first, so I have to have it in parentheses. I'm going to multiply it by 5, and then that's going to equal, well, it's not equal to 19 because w plus 3 is 19, and I need to multiply it by 5. It's 5 times this worth, so this should be 95. Now, some of you guys might be uncomfortable with the fact that the 5 is after the parentheses, but it really doesn't make any difference because, again, multiplication is associative or commutative, so that you can move it either direction. Again, you could have something like 4 times 3 is the same thing as 3 times 4. So the fact that I put it in behind is just indicating that it was done second rather than first. But you could also write this as 5 times the quantity of w plus 3 equals 95, just for convenience sake. Okay, let's move on to this lower left-hand side. And this time, let's say we're going to divide by 7. Okay, so if we're going to divide by 7, again, w equals 16 is our statement of truth. And we want to represent it when we divide by 7, so it's simply w divided by 7 equals 16 divided by 7. We don't need to have a calculator. We can easily just leave it in that form. There's nothing that needs to be simplified in that case. So if we move on, we next need to add a certain amount. And again, if we keep referencing back to our recipes, we can see how we're just making 2 alterations. Our first alteration is division. Our next alteration is addition. In our recipes, we had one alteration that was the doubling, and then we added. Another alteration was that we subtracted the sugar, and then we tripled it. So 2 different scenarios where we had 2 different alterations. Here again, we're having 2 different alterations. I'm going to add 11. And now my new expression, my current expression is w divided by 7, and this expression is equal to this value. My new expression is w divided by 7 plus 11, and that new value of this expression is just 16 over 7 plus 11. Let's move over to this subtraction problem. And let's say we're going to subtract 4. So our expression is w. If I'm going to subtract 4, that means I now have w minus 4. And if the value of the variable is 16, the value of the variable less 4 is going to be 12. And again, 16 minus 4 does give us the 12, so we know that the value of the variable is still existing here at 16. The value of this expression is 12. And let's divide by 6. And when I divide by 6, I need to take this difference. So w over 4 divided by 6, that is going to equal, so if we divide this value of 12 by 6, we know that the value of this new expression is 2. Now with this one, you could write w minus 4 in parentheses divided by 6 equals 2. You could also write w minus 4 slash 6 equals 2, but remember the difference is happening first, so you got to keep it in parentheses, and then you show the division. This is probably the cleanest way, but there are those options as well. Now lastly, we want to go down to the lower right-hand side, and I'm going to multiply by negative 2. And when I multiply by negative 2, I'm going to get negative 2 times w equals negative 32. And now lastly, let's just pick another number, and let's say we're going to subtract 8. And when I subtract 8 from the negative 2w, that just means my negative 2w is decreasing by 8 units. And that's now, instead of negative 2w being its value being negative 32, when I decrease by negative 8, or decrease by 8, I'm going to end up with a negative 40. So this web construction, we always want to remember that we start with a truth statement, some sort of value of our variable, and then from there we're just making an alteration. So here's alteration by adding 3 and then multiplying by 5. And we can always check to make sure the value of the variable exists. W divided by 7. If I know w is 16, this is still a true statement. So the value of this expression, w divided by 7, is in fact the value of 16/7.